once again, thanks so much for Dave for his recaps and his reminding of things went that went before, and also all the rest of you. Especially, I will call out Bill for the lovely Pinterest board of inspirational pictures and stuff. I don't go on Pinterest enough, but I think I also go on Pinterest too much. So, shrug. What am I going to do about that? When we last left our fellowship, some of us were
Oh, why
below
didn't I
ground.
sign off? And that way you can at least hear. No, I'm serious. If I shut down, then you can share with me. I
Are
don't know
you
what else to do.
are you guys having
So if I
throughput
shut down,
issues?
Yeah, we are restoring itself.
Ah,
So and so like it'll go for a long time with everything's cool, and then all of a sudden we'll get robot chipmunks and silent. So Margie and I will trade off back and forth as to who's on, depending on what scene's going on.
all right. We're going to begin with James. So the rest of you, so the other two of that consortium, flip a coin because James, I'm assuming, is in California and has his own bandwidth issues.
This
Yes.
is a horrible plan. Just
To begin with you.
yeah.
As there are no horrible plans. There are only plans, and they're all horrible.
uh, so when we last left our fellowship, they had wisely decided to split the party three ways. I
The
support
wisest.
I support this wholeheartedly. With Win, well, I will come around to Win with Rowan and Virens and Anne descending, spiraling downward in around the Emerald Pit, closing in on Eki, which Rowan may or may not be aware of at this point, since he hasn't nosedived into the shaft. Caribus getting away from the fog walk, and I couldn't remember if he was pursuing the person who was like apparently ribbed, or just kind of getting the heck out of Dodge, or whether he was going to try and like tail that
I
person.
think we had not decided at the
I think we
time.
had
So
not decided. That's probably why I don't remember. I've just suddenly decreed. It's not that I can't remember. It's that we didn't decide.
in the notes, at least, it had not yet been decided.
Yes. So that was going on, and as the largest of the group of fellowship members was headed down, we asked Wynn what was going on. We find out that Wynn was not, in fact, headed downwards, but heading westwards into the city, um, toward parts as yet not entirely identified. Possibly heading towards the mayoral estates, possibly heading somewhat northwards,
Towards a flock of birds.
towards a flock of birds. It is hard to say. And we will begin with Win, so it's not going to be that hard to say because we're going to find out what's going on there. So Win, as you make your way through the city, where are you making your way to? Hopefully.
Making my way towards the old temple district.
Oh, right, right. Because you had a thought. What was the thought in your mind with regards to the old temple district? Like, why there?
Because it's likely to be the one remaining like O'Hare spot, and that is likely where uh Sifley will go.
Hmm. Okay. All right. I like it. And uh, how? Okay, so you're coming from. Let me think about this for a second. So, Emerald Pit's here. Are you going in any kind of roundabout fashion, or just basically straight through the gardens here, and then from there to the old temple district on this?
Straight through.
I was thinking about this as I was letting my mind wander, looking at the map. I think that if I were to draw this in representative geographical style, like a map, um, these districts would probably be laid out in a much more orderly fashion, which is to say, this guy, would be kind of right near the center, and all of these other ones that connect there would probably be pretty close to physically equidistant, mostly from the center one. In my mind, the lines are the space between the die are not so much representative of distance as they are like difficulty or time to get from one area to another. So ones that are further away, very long lines that seem to be otherwise adjacent to one another, might be complicated to travel. Very crowded. Not really direct routes. So you're taking a lot of like little alleys and byways and residential areas with lots of annoying cul-de-sacs that leave you nowhere, things like that.
Well,
Um,
the island itself is kind of mountainous, so I mean,
yeah, exactly.
the city can be on multiple levels,
You
and
got that annoying minus tier. I mean, I
yeah.
understand what Tolkien was doing. Let's make this city incredibly defensible. We'll have 7 walls and none of the gates line up. But sweet, merciful crap, I would want to kick the crap out of those city planners every single day. I was like leaving my little apartment to go to work, winding back and forth across the mountain like that. I would just want to punch somebody. Um, with that said, Minas Tirith was never meant to be a proper city in the first place. So, uh, anyhow, and yeah, that's another good point. I mean, it might be close, but it also might be up or down a sharp slope, so you're winding back and forth on switchbacks and that sort of thing. So, to give you an idea, then, getting from the center of town over to the gardens, complicated, not particularly fast route. It's one of those crazy things where it's like, oh yeah, I mean technically that's the straightest direction as the crow flies, but if you actually want to get there faster, from here, you get no. What you want to do is you want to go up to the Crystal Ponds, and from there get yourself over to the Lilacs. Well, you don't want to go through the Plague District, but it is faster. And then from there, go down to the old Temple District. That's actually faster, even though it's actually sort of a roundabout way, because it's just a bit faster. That kind of a thing. Straight shot though, and how would you know that kind of thing anyway? To the gardens. I think with the gardens being what they are, I feel as though there's a bit of a threat in that area in that you're fairly close. I mean, uh, what was the building I used as sort of like the visual mute the cues? No.
Yeah, the big glass.
The big glass
Yeah,
solarium.
it's in the
It is,
it,
and I'm terrible. But in any case,
it's actually 2 episodes ago.
but kind of an open, that it's sort of an open park, um, kind of a thing, and there really isn't a lot. I mean, what you have are the nicer members of the gentility. I won't say the nobility, but you know, uh, uh,
I put the
people.
link in Roll20. By the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Thank you. Perfect. But that's about as. I mean, the building's a bad example. Well, the building's a good example if that's the front end of the building, but the area around there, where you're talking about, yes, there are trees. I mean, obviously the area's not that flat, but yes, there are trees, but they're not like packed in. Lots of wide walkways and people moving about and stuff like that. Once you're into an area like that, someone like when might offend, or at least draw attention. So, talk to me about how you, as you're coming out of sort of this, or coming down, because really the emerald pits are kind of above, and you're coming down the side of the down through the city, and you come to these, the gardens, and you're taking stock of this area that you need to kind of get through to get to the old temple district. What's your read there, When? Like, how do you choose to get around this area or get through this area? I mean, it's midish day. People are about looking, like that one painting of a bunch of Victorian or Edwardian boaters next to the riverside. I'm sure you guys would immediately know which painting I'm talking about. And not a few mayoral guards and city guards and stuff here and hither and there, thither. What do you do? Or do you just avoid the whole thing entirely? Let's take a more roundabout route.
Sorry. Uh,
He was busy looking for an image.
yeah, and then I was sneezing.
That's exactly the picture I was thinking of. Well done.
Yeah. Uh, Probably doing my best to avoid all of that. I don't know.
I mean, slipping from shadow to shadow. You're the kind of person that draw. I mean,
Yeah, I definitely draw attention.
yeah. There are lots of weird people about. Talking
I
critters and people and.
Lots of weird people about.
But you're.
I'm the weirdest,
Or at
or
least
up there.
the creepiest.
I resent that.
I think. How about we go with a move I don't think we've used up to this point in time? How about we try get away when you need to get somewhere out of reach or out of sight? To kind of traverse this area and see what kind of complications might arise as you're going across this area. The risk here probably being guards spotting you who might otherwise be something. Or wait, do you have some cool thing?
Yeah, sorry, it's been so long forgetting what I have. I can actually, I have one of my advantages is, over kind of, I'm very fast and so you can travel across a room in an instant.
Okay.
So I can still do getaway if you want. It just changes.
Yeah, definitely. Let me look at
how it appears in your mind. I have that under, I think, my gear. Yeah. Curse advantage.
Water, you cannot swim, and rain makes travel.
Advantage,
I didn't know about the water. No, I want to see. I didn't know about the water thing. That's cool. I feel like the water hadn't come up yet.
That's because everyone's been focused on the bird thing.
Open grounds. You are very fast, and you may even be able to teleport. You can travel across the entire room in an instant. Very cool. Mundane swords and arrows cannot harm you. I think that the best way of expressing that is literally as an advantage, which is to say, roll with hope. But you can't really roll with hope. Yeah.
I mean, it's grace, which
you're good at anyway. I mean, in any other circumstance, crossing the room instantly. You know what? I don't need you to roll for this. I really don't. But let's. I'd like you to kind of, like, is this? Are you just going so fast that even if people see you, you're just busy like Naruto running across the gardens and they can't catch up? Or, and honestly, a Revenant Naruto running is.
I hate that
Ah.
you're calling it Naruto running instead of Naruto running. Be open about your shame.
I mean, I would have to watch the show to know how to pronounce it correctly, so I am owning the fact that while I am pronouncing it wrong, I've also proven that I've never watched it. So there. Win
Yeah,
and
but it's
loss
a
simultaneously.
common show.
I would have to have heard anybody ever
I
say it.
haven't watched it either. And
So,
yes, what do you want me to do?
so,
No, I'm not.
so are
I'm
you? Is
not
like just
Naruto running.
so are you burning straight across in like a straight line and just saying screw it, no one's gonna catch me, or is it more like that really quick flicker, flicker, flicker from like shadowed tree bowl to tree, like
It's
overgrown area to, you know, sticking to the shadowy forest areas, and it's really more of a, I mean, practically teleporting, may even be teleporting for all intents and purposes, but just the you can't tell if they're moving really fast or just like you're actually losing track of them kind of thing, and so we're seeing really more like short bursts of popping through this area. Is
yeah,
it more like that?
it's more the uh kind of burst flickering through shadows of the lovely trees in the park.
Lovely. Any if no, I'm not gonna worry about that. Are you quite fixated on getting where you're going? Are you paying any attention whatsoever to the kind of the nearby area? The mayor's manor and stuff. Given that at least in passing you would be aware of the fact that the mayoral guards that were sent after you were, you know, according to Rowan, like affected or tainted or something of that nature. Or you just is this really all about Sifley? Which is entirely fine. I'm just curious because we can skip right to that and that's fine.
I think the focus is on Sifley.
Okay, so you're flickering through the park and okay, I can say just as you're doing this and you're kind of going, we're watching this happen somewhat initially kind of closely in the first couple, this were comic, like first couple of panels, somewhat closely, you going from tree to tree, and then the next couple shots are pulling back, and we see the bucolic area and people wandering around the paths and, you know, talking genteelly with one another as they take their constitutionals and whatnot, and still the little flickering and stuff. And we pull back yet further from that, and now we're watching. We can see the trees that you're going through. We don't really see you in the distance. We can see the trees that you're moving through, and the people on the green sward are a little bit more uh, are much smaller, and the view itself is framed, literally framed in a window pane, or window panes rather, and we realize that we're looking at this through the glass of the solarium of the mayoral um, mansion. From the point of view of Ursula, who's kind of looking out over the green sward, standing at the glass, um, arms lightly crossed, eyes slightly narrowed, but a smirk on her on her mouth, on her lips, just the hint of a smirk, kind of a kind of thing. Not doing anything, just watching. And you're pretty sure she's not smirking and humping at the walkers, or at least we are as the viewer. Um, and she doesn't say anything. She's not just do anything, but we definitely are led to believe that she was watching that area and something there she found interesting. So, um, a more abrupt change from the gardens to the old temple district, it would be hard to imagine. Because once you pass out of the gardens themselves, there's basically a street on that side of the gardens, on the western side of the gardens, along which there are the sorts of houses that one would see. Okay, this is easy. The sorts of houses that one would see lining the street between the park. You know, you've got your park, your street, and then you've got the houses lining the street from Mary Poppins, where they can cross the street and go across the way. I don't know why. I don't know why this town is suddenly Edwardian. Um, the crowds certainly aren't, but for whatever, just that kind of thing. But as soon as you almost get the impression that the buildings are practically a facade of their own, because past that first block, past the visual view from the park, things become squalid with a real quickness. Probably less than a block past the edge of the park, and the buildings are much more run down. They are, and more so because they were once grand. They're not wooden hovels and shanties and that sort of thing. Although there are those sorts of things around, they're just leaning up against larger things. Stone buildings carved from the very rock of the island, and or cut, or, built of stone cut from the island. Old stuff that's been there and engineered, but pockmarked and weather worn and and blemished with lichen across the face of it. In many cases, what windows there are, and a fair number of windows, missing any glass or any kind of covering whatsoever, or there's just like cheesecloth stretched across to that kind of thing. Um, Definitely O'Here construction, although you've spotted that throughout construction wherever. Um, but probably one of the older parts of the city, not unlike the mayoral estate, which to your mind is definitely old O'Here stuff, but in much better repair. The stone's still white, that sort of thing. Here it's gray, and it's old sidewalk in an old part of town, kind of beat up and weathered, and so on and so forth. You find yourself, by gravitating somewhat towards the center of this area, in kind of an open square. What was probably casual marketplace, that kind of thing. There's an old fountain in the center of that is non-functional anymore. It's gone. There's a bit of old dry grass, wild grass and stuff growing up out of it. Um, the lip is chipped, and most of the bas-relief stuff that would be around the outside edge of the fountain along the outside walls, like, been chipped, or actually it looks like somebody took a hammer to it in many cases. Whatever statue might have been there in the center of the thing that was like sort of the central conceit of the fountain and stuff has been broken off, right at the base. So there's just like sort of the corroded greenish copper pipes kind of jutting out of that, and uh, uh, leaning over like broken reeds and stuff kind of into the fountain. There's no water coming from them. They're long since dry, but they're still kind of there. And and there's people about. There's activity, scraggly little catlings and various lesser bloodlines of various species about. Uh, Most, well, all really generally avoiding any attention to you, and most of them giving the fountain really a kind of a wide berth. So it's kind of like activity around the outside edge of the square without, and then quite a fair amount of traffic without there being a lot of traffic in the area. Um, what do you do? How do you get your bearings from here? What do you do?
Um. uh,
Or I can give you one more bit of information, which I'm fine with.
no. I. So what, I'm like. Oh, come on, do the clicky thing. Here-ish or
Yeah, you're
in
really
between?
no, you've properly gotten into the old temple
Ah.
district. This is really you're kind of dead center in the old temple district. Um, this is sort of the central area, and where these older buildings, these old. It's not just temples, obviously, but there's lots of big buildings and stuff that probably many of them probably used to be temples. But what they are now are tenements. The interior of which you pass by one, the doors of the temple are what was once a temple are wide open, and inside you can see that people have built like these really crappy scaffolding based kind of like interior floors to add more what can loosely be termed living space. Um, so the entire thing's just been like turned into a squatter's, you know, I say paradise, but that's probably not accurate since the whole place is probably run by gangs and that sort of thing, or under the protection of same, that kind of deal. From the square, at that cracked and broken fountain, looking down one of the streets, you can see one of those temples that is not open and does not have. It's probably a block and a half away, right at the end of the street, and the place is every eve of the place. Hang on. Let me see if I can find something that most accurately reflects what I'm thinking of here. But my internet is being slow. Really? Oh my god. All right. Close enough. Every eave of the building basically looks like this.
You know?
And I'm going to switch to Carabas for a second. While you ponder
Carapace
the.
is,
What's that?
Carapace is really interested in that temple. He wants to go visit.
Is this a Catling temple? Because usually we bring food offerings to the goddess, but she's going to provide them to us. That says something.
Does it? Is that what it does? Anyway. Yeah, the place they're not there in a guardian sense of the word. Uh, that's not the impression that you're getting. All right, Carabas was kind of here.
Carapace and Rumi were
kind of there, and the So, Misty, you've got the people to back off, the thugs and whatnot. One person is at least one
Couple
that you've
folks, were,
spotted.
couple folks were chatting, and then one left with
Great,
purpose.
yeah, with great purpose. Um, uh, there's money to be made here with this uh, kind of purpose or something. Um, definitely one of the ones that had been giving you up to that point in time a pretty hairy eyeball. Um, Rumi, for her part, thought you'd probably gotten around the guards, but still had much to say about that whole situation. Um, and what she's been able to, you know, what's been going on there at the mayoral estate, strange people in town, but just people in town just in general acting strange, that kind of thing. You got the guy
Hmm.
who's, kind of herring off and, that perennial question, what do you do?
Um, well, I'm definitely both confident enough at the moment and interested enough in what this guy is up to want to go after him. But I'm a little reluctant to with Rumi tagging along. Um, so I will say, but I can't leave her here in the fog walk because that would be like really inappropriate.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, anything that you do is going to be, well, that's not true. But leaving this place, really, regardless of which direction you go, is probably going to be best to bring her along, at least
well, yeah.
as far as that goes.
Um, so I'm going to start walking after our after this guy.
Okay.
But as we do, I'm going to tell her. So I want to get you to someplace safe. But I also need to follow that individual up there who I feel is a ne'er do well who's up to no good. Um, so if we
All
find
right.
someplace safe, I'm going to expect you to stay there. So I can go on my way because I don't want to bring you into danger, but I don't want to leave you here because this looks awfully dodgy.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a good idea to come here anyway. Um, but the expression, like, you have to promise to stay there. The eye roll that you're getting at this point in time is mid to high level demigod level eye roll.
Well,
Uh,
probably especially since he's taking this kind of very very paternalistic, um, you know, looking after her kind of mode, and they're about the same height,
yeah,
and
and
the
and
the whole catling thing aside, he's acting like someone who should be much taller than her.
yes. Um, so she's not having much of that, but even considering that, she is a human, and you've rarely seen a human that can bring. I mean, speaking of somebody who is a cat and b lived amongst cats, you would have thought that you had already experienced peak cold indifference from you know everyone you grew up around.
Right.
Cats can bring peak indifference. Um, her eye roll is really like half catling, which is
Well,
both
I've
an
already speculated that her ability to follow me and her insatiable curiosity means perhaps actually she is a catling spirit that has been sadly for her sins reincarnated in a human form. So this this
Uh,
this goes completely with that.
I love that reincarnating as a human is a step down.
Uh, you know, we wouldn't rub it in, but
I mean, certain
people would gossip.
It's actually 7.
7 steps down. I mean, From a philosophical point of view, really, it's not even worthy of debate. Obviously, step down. I mean, look at us. Look at them. Um, in any case, yeah, moving along through there, I think. Well, trailing the guy is not so much whether or not the trailing the guy is particularly useful. So I think probably a look closely. Probably just to see what kind of information is eventually gleaned from this whole thing, unless there seems to be a move that's more accurate. But it's
Not really.
what's look closely based on?
That's a great question. I would guess sense,
Probably.
since observation is one of the things underneath that.
Sure. Yeah. I just hadn't look. Let me look at it.
I don't have my little cheat sheet here in front of me.
Yeah, it's sense. I think. Yeah, the possible fallout from this feels like the kind of thing where tailing somebody goes sideways. So that seems to track.
Unless I can tie this into the whole little folk doing something clever or sneak when no one is looking kind of a thing.
Actually, yeah. What's that? So talk to me about that.
When I do something clever or sneaky when no one is looking, I can roll plus courage instead of sense. In this case, on 7+, I do it and no one notices right away. On 9-, everyone knows I did it as soon as they notice what I did.
Right. I mean,
I'm good with this being a really straightforward sense kind of a thing.
yeah. I mean, that totally works if it's like I need to follow. I know exactly where it's going. I need him not to see me, kind of thing. You would definitely go for that. If you're trying to actually figure out some stuff, there's no. I've learned some new stuff in that move is the thing. That's the only thing.
Right.
It doesn't feed. It doesn't feed back into that kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
So let's go with look closer.
Can I get Rumi potentially to help with this either through observations of what is her knowledge of the city and or observations about things that aren't the way they ought to be?
I think so. Have you got a bond with her?
I certainly should by this time. None has been written up. I don't know what's necessary to make that.
I don't know that there's no real role. It's sort of an end session move, and I forgot to do that at the beginning of the session.
That's right. We never did our end session stuff.
I'm so bad at this.
I was about to say, I don't even think it's an end session move. I think
it's just kind of a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like at the end of a scene, if you think you have a bond with somebody, it's something like that, if I remember correctly.
I clearly think I have a bond of some sort.
I think something like I'm fairly certain Rumi is a reincarnated catling, paying for her failings as a catling, or something like that. I mean, it could, but you practically have expressed like 3 bonds with her already, just in describing how your interactions with her go.
I would say she's a reincarnated catling, and therefore deserves a certain amount of additional care and sympathy and
watching out for her.
Potential respect. Yeah, sure.
Sure. I think NPCs can help you, give you hope. Is that a thing? I feel like that's a thing.
That is a thing.
I'm feeling that's a thing, especially if you have a bond with them. Bond being established, which I have no problem with. You were saying something, Mike.
I was gonna say, usually what happens is they damage a stat in order to assist you.
So she should have some stats. We'll say city guard adoptee, and
Do you want a silly one?
Sure.
Actually paying attention.
Yes, I love it. Is it? How many should she have? Is it 2 or I know it's at least 2.
2-ish.
2-ish.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going with keen-eyed street urchin, but actually paying attention is so much more poetic.
You could do much the same thing, and it's
Yeah, it
Give some
accomplishes all the same
personality.
stuff, but yeah. Yeah, and actually how she would halfway describe herself, honestly. That's great. It's like, how did you know that?
I
Because I'm actually paying
I'm actually
attention.
paying attention. Yeah.
It's lovely. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, if you want her to, this has been a while since we had to roll these things. Do you damage the stat ahead of time to give advantage, or is it like
Yeah.
yeah? So you could do the if you were so inclined, Dave, you could sort of check the actually paying attention trait on her to give yourself advantage on following the guy. I don't know what your sense is specifically, whether or not that's
It's
something to
it's
worry about.
it's it's 0, so
It's it certainly bears doing. I mean, there's a good argument there, given a 0. So, and I'm fine with it.
yeah.
Why don't you get her down though, like on your character sheet, so that we.
I've got her.
Okay,
I've got her
excellent,
underneath bonds. Or
lovely. Bonds? No, that not companions.
you're right. There should be a companion.
Should be a
Right. Never mind.
companion, basically.
You're right.
Get her in there. That's fine. So yeah, why don't you give us a sense roll and do it with hope. Do it with hope, since she's along there, and
Okay. I am rolling with hope.
let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. Ooh, lovely. Look at that beautiful thing. I will say, really nicely coated sheets, all things considered. Not as pretty as those ones from City of Mist, but they get the job done. All right, so that's an 11 on a look closely. So, ask 3 questions from the list.
Let me. Okay. Okay. There's the list.
Yep. It's all said and done. You
Look at the right
eventually have,
list.
yep. It's all said and done. You eventually have to look up the moves anyway.
I know. Okay. What's going on here? Someone getting out of place. Tell me about blah. Tell me about blah. What are they doing? What will they do next? What will happen if I? So, wow. Okay. So tell me about Dude here. What is he doing,
He
and
was.
what is he going to do next?
I would like, before I talk any more about Dude, I have been, and I will freely admit this, I've been reluctant to bring in non-human species. I would like him to be one, and not one that we've run into already. So, could somebody give me something that this guy is?
That's literally what the Pinterest board is for. Just
I know, but I don't want. I there's lots of them. I love all of them. I just want somebody, not me, to pick one. I know it's literally what the Pinterest board is for. I would like somebody else to say, I think this guy should be blah. He is, I will give you this much right now, definitely one of the truly dyed in the wool, all the way down to the bones, tainted folks. Like, practically, like, Rowan walks into the room and the eyes practically pulse red. Like, full on owned. Beyond that, I have no
There you go.
stuff. Dude. Here's Dude.
He's a fun guy.
I love it. And that's
Why
actually.
you gotta be like that, Bill?
Well, it's a very serious game. There's not much room for jokes. So we get in where we can. Okay. So, and I will say for the record that when I did go through the Pinterest board, that's one of the ones I saved down going, that is freaking badass. So this guy, no, I can't call him this guy because I'm going to say fun guy. Dave, did you ask your first question? What am I answering? Did I kill everybody with the mushroom joke, or did I lose connection?
I'm here.
I'm still
Okay,
here.
I'm making sure.
I'm here.
Dave, are you
You
still
might have
there?
lost the Hill family.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Yes. No, yes, I did ask a question. What is Dude doing, and what will they do next?
What is Dude doing, and what are they doing next? They are heading north, and they are heading in Rumi's estimation straight for the I want to get the full name here. The Vergon Gardens. So they're heading here. Kind of by virtue of looping through the Twin Nests. Which are populated, and there's something about the play, and you're giving pursuits, so you don't really have time to think about it for too long, but you're definitely getting a people of the air vibe in that area. And when I say vibe, I'm probably saying scent. Like, something about that area reminds you of being back at the People of the Air's village or camp. There's probably some of them around. You don't have time to, pursue that, whether or not you even would. But yeah, looping through there, and then from thence northward, heading for the Varagon Gardens, and so what is he? That's where he's going, and what is he up to? Is if he's one of the people that decide that they didn't like you, like the guards or something like that, he's maybe going to report you to somebody, or he thinks that he can tell somebody where you are for money or something like that. With that said, I mean, he's definitely a rough and tumble looking individual, and will certainly stand out like a sore thumb in that area. But that's neither here nor there. That's just information. So that give you, he's definitely headed towards the mayoral estates or the gardens or something along those lines. So, and it should be noted that that is a big, that is a profound social tier jump from where he was to going from there. If you know what I'm saying, like,
right.
Somebody in the innermost city slums spots you and immediately heads for City Hall. It's weird. Question the second.
Question the second. Oh, sorry, I was looking the wrong. I was looking at the speak softly section.
Did I get a full answer for you on that first one?
I think so. Yeah,
There's two parts.
That's fine.
All right, carry on.
Yeah, what are they doing, and what will they do next?
Yeah. Probably report in if I was going to summarize it. I mean, that would be your solution.
Right. Is there something hidden or out of place? If so, what looks suspicious? In other words, there's either in the situation that he's moving through, or just about him himself. Is there anything that's kind of
he's
odd,
muttering to himself, really kind of continually now that he's away from everybody else. And the closer he gets to areas of the town where he really ought not be, the more that intensifies. You're never close enough to catch it, because again, muttering, and also you're not trying to get close enough to where he would really spot you or anything like that. But he's, by the time you're within like visual distance of sort of like the park in the gardens 3, 4, 5 blocks away, whatever, where you're starting to see the trees and stuff like that, and it's clearly starting to get excuse me, into the building quality, the state of the buildings and that sort of thing are improving. He's like full on Renfrew. Body twitches. He's scratching at his head cap and under his head cap and stuff. So like little spores are coming off. Like little rains of spores are coming off. Nervous twitches. Fingering his gear. Constantly touching stuff and kind of ducking his head and kind of leaning to the side a little bit, and just he seems to what he's doing is at odds with his nature. His sense.
I'm sorry, I just missed your last word there.
What he's doing
is at odds with
his nature, like where he would choose to be, where he's far more at home in the city is not where he's headed.
Like he's being compelled in some fashion, or
sure. I mean, if that would be, so you're saying like what's amiss here is like, whatever he's doing right now, it just seems as though he's still doing it, but it's causing a stress or to him that needs to release like a pressure valve in some way, and it's releasing in these nervous tics and mutterings and twitchings and that sort of thing, because he's clear. It's clearly, this is not the sort of person who goes and reports to the mayor, and the fact that he is at odds really with everything that he otherwise would be.
As though, yeah, okay.
So,
okay. Unfortunately, all of these things kind of tie in with what the rest of.
Well, you can leave it a bit. You can leave it a bit until he, like, I mean,
I want to follow him to a destination. So I mean, if it looks like he really is going to go and report into the mayor, or he goes and reports into the police chief, or he reports to a guy that stands at the corner, I want to at least kind of get that next link before
he does surprisingly head straight for the mayoral estate, but he doesn't go to the front. He comes in like through up to a servants entrance where a guard comes, and there's a lot of agitated gesturing and so forth, because the guard clearly has no intention of letting this guy in at all. But his angry imploring and arm waving and so forth at least eventually gets him to sort of send his fellow guardsmen off to bring back like a sergeant. And the sergeant, or the some commanding fellow, he at least has got that kind of street weary grimness to him that seems to like just accept that occasionally you've got to do business with these guys. But upon seeing the guy, like there's a set to his jaw that says he kind of knows what's going on here, and he dismisses the other two guards or sends them into the guardhouse or something, and those two stay at the little sort of servants entrance kind of thing, just outside of it, and he sits there and rather sternly listens while the other guy gesticulates, lots of hand motions at about chest height. You can only assume he's describing your kingly, albeit diminutive stature, that sort of thing. So listening to him kind of tell the tale, and now
I just lost you, Joyce.
Sorry, am I back?
Now you're back.
Okay. So
Sorry.
he's the guy's clearly telling the tale of what he's encountered.
Right.
You, Rumi, the short people, that kind of thing. Lots of hand waving and stuff, and pointing southward again. That's where he got off to. The guy's frowning, glowering quite a bit, and he points, kind of says something. The guy's like, "I'm not doing whatever it is that you just said." And the guy points rather emphatically at the ground, like right here, and the guy kind of like, and you something with the eyes happens at that point with that sergeant where the guy just slumps and gives in. Our dude, our fungal dude, and he just kind of, I mean, at risk of it being upon him not intentionally, basically plants himself there by the wall, and the sergeant marches off, not into the manor itself, but toward like because this is not a walled estate. It's that's like literally a servant's entrance into the building. But he's heading off towards. Oh, if you've ever been to Central Park or anything like that, they've got a stables like in the park kind of a thing. And there's like a barracks or what is very probably being used as a barracks, like probably 200-300 yards off under some trees, kind of out of. It's nicely shaded. It's nicely screened from general, and he's heading that way. Putting all these things together, guy has information, guy comes information, guy said, sergeant says, "You wait right here. I'm getting men. I'm coming back. You're going to take us back where this all happened." And that's what's happening there.
Okay.
Okay.
That's probably as much information as I want to.
But for whatever reason, definitely at least some members of the criminal organization, people all around the city, but they're definitely. This isn't like he didn't get paid. None of that happened. This is just an informant working kind of thing, and the guards coming here. I will say one last thing that he did do as he's about to march off. He does grab. He motions one of the other lesser guards over and makes a few quick motions with his hands, and that guy goes rather. He doesn't look at all happy with this command, and he goes hurrying off into the building, into the mayoral mansion. Watching this for any length of time, are you sticking around to watch any of it? Because you're at a distance. You're relatively able to.
I probably would watch long enough to confirm whether a squad of troops gets deployed down.
Squad might be over.
South.
I mean, call it. What would be a good size? 8. Are you that and you're kind of find yourself watching more of that, like with the sergeant basically gets over to the barracks and leans in and shouts. You can still kind of hear his voice from that distance, so he's a proper sergeant. And then waits outside while all the there's commotion ensues, and you find yourself watching that, and you initially miss something that Rumi like tugs on your sleeve and points back to the main mansion, and the guard has returned and really kind of moved off to the side with him in tow, a guy in sort of monastic robes, cowl, that sort of thing, has sort of come out of the building, and the guard, for all of that he brought the guy, doesn't seem to want to have anything to do with him. And he kind of comes over and leans in to dude and seems to have a whispered conversation with him, and then and that all of his wild big motion gesticulations that he'd been making previously, none of that is there. He's very still talking to this guy. And once that's done, the guy steps back somewhat near the entrance there and waits until the guards have come. That guy gives you the heebie-jeebies all the way down to the tip of your tail. And with that, we go to the Emerald Pit. So much going on. So much going on.
Dum dum dum.
And having that Eki stuff going on, information in your head, do you quickly apprise
Do not
your-
assume I know anything that just went on.
Well, no, because none of this has been. But from last session, when you spotted Eki down in the Emerald Pit, and
Oh, right.
and
Right,
you come
right.
back,
Okay.
and they're continuing the Virens, and Rowan are continuing on. Do you catch up and catch them up, or are you pondering what to do with this information? What do you do?
I wrangled them.
You're right.
I
Hold up. Ow, 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 ow. And what? You wrangle them to what end?
I like. Well, you may think you know what's going on, and maybe you do, but I took a little gander about what's going on in the pit, and one of your friends is down there, and looks like he's been damaging the crystals. So, if you already knew this, I'd appreciate knowing what you know. And if you didn't already know this, then I think you should think about what we're doing.
What?
Yeah, that's what I thought. You just walked past that and said, no, we're just going to go down because you were all in your own private Idaho. Okay.
That pretty
So,
boy wizard with the sword.
Yeah. Looks like he's damaging the crystals in a not quite random, but not a pattern I can recognize. He's being very methodical and looks like he's, got a ways to go still, but does not look like it's a good thing.
Certainly.
Oh, Eki's down there.
Yes.
Let me take a look.
And you're not so very far along that you couldn't just go back up to where she was peeking out and look down there. So.
Or are you just going to look through the earth or something?
I was gonna say.
Oh well, that's certainly.
I was gonna say. So the back up where she was. There's railing, right? Like there's
Yes.
some way to look down there, right?
Yeah, there's like a little walkway and the brass sort of catwalk kind of a thing at your level. So yes.
Okay. And it's like, oh yes, that is Eki down there. I'm gonna go say hi.
You want to tell us a little bit more about what you're planning on doing so we can support you?
I wasn't planning on it, but I'm sure if I'm being wrangled right now, I'm sure. Like,
I'm not letting you be stupid.
but that's what I'm good at.
Well, it's what you're. I don't know if you can be good at that. That's a bad thing to be good at.
Being reckless and stubborn is what I'm good at.
But that's my move. Yeah, no, yeah. So the audience is certainly aware that that is exactly what he was planning on doing. But so Anne gives you pause.
This isn't just about you.
But oh, and Rowan has a tough bit of reality to chew on here.
I'm not saying I'm going to keep him from doing it, but I want to know enough that I know when to get him out of there versus let him do whatever it is that he thinks he needs to do.
There was a game once upon a time that we did that where one person kept the log of what happened, but somebody else's job was to collect quotes from the game. And honestly, this session, one of the quotes that would have to go down would just be Rowan going, "What?" Like it's just so flat. Anyway, so Rowan, how do you, as Anne says, essentially explain yourself?
That's gonna be very difficult for Rowan because
Gandalf,
Because he doesn't know what he's going to do.
Gandalf, when somebody else in the party says something that makes sense.
I've been playing this on ear by ear since let's see, when did I leave the rest of the Harbingers?
Since before Anne was born, certainly.
I ain't that old.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not Gandalf old.
well, Anne's not that old.
That's it.
A woman never tells.
A woman never tells, yeah. But yeah, you've been going by your gut for a while there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you do have Viren's there. You do have Anne there. So it may occur to you that winging it and making them improvise isn't entirely the best move, maybe?
Right. I have allies.
Weird.
There's advantages to this.
That and disadvantages because we won't let you throw your life away, but
And hey, don't you have some prophecy shit going on now?
I do.
prophesied.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
What was the prophecy that you laid down here?
Oh, that there was going to be some guy foretelling stuff.
Yeah.
Or in the city square.
Yeah.
I lost track of that whenever everybody started hating me. Paying attention to things, not my strong suit.
Well, the guy speaking, to be fair, everybody hating you is a direct knock-on effect of that guy talking in the city square. So, congratulations on your accurate predictions, sort of, maybe.
Nice and accurate.
Yeah, nice. So anyway, you have allies. Eki is up to things. He's also talking to you. When you glance out, he's definitely carrying on a conversation with somebody down there. Or talking maybe to himself, but that seems very un-Eki like. In any case. What do you think? What are you doing? What's the plan?
Well,
I just keep thinking of that image that you put out of the guy like diving straight into the water from way up high, and I was
that was what I'd say. If nobody stopped me, that would have been like plan one. I have ways of dealing with that.
I can survive that drop.
It's calling that a plan that I find terribly insulting.
Jumping isn't a plan. Jump is what you do when a plan fails. Anyway,
that should be like Plan J.
I planned like one baby step ahead, not like steps ahead.
Yeah. So.
Like, what am I going to have for lunch?
That's too much. It's too far. It's too far.
That's too far ahead. Anyway, so yeah, so we have Anne, we have Rowan, we have Viren's.
Mm-hmm. And Eki doing things.
And Eki and somebody else dealing with things.
Yep. Doing stuff. Like a person doing things.
It's like
bastard.
Planning is not Rowan's strong point. In causing trouble and helping his friends are what he's good at.
So do you turn to Viren's for a plan? Turn to Anne for a plan?
Yes.
Which one?
You could get very different answers.
Indeed. And knowing that, I think that's certainly something that Rowan be aware of. So when you say like, when you turn to somebody for the plan, who do you turn to? Because you're going to get different answers.
Yeah, Viren's. What do you think here?
He's going for violence. Okay, good.
I mean,
That's okay.
Presumably-
I'm not harshing your mellow.
We must confront Eki and question him about what he intends to do here. And if he intends harm to these people, we must stop him.
sounds like a great plan.
And since they can't all survive jumping off and falling 10 stories.
Well, actually, I can. I've got a skill for that.
You have a skill for falling 10 stories and surviving?
No, I have a skill for following him.
Oh. Whatever that is.
She can
Yeah,
burn a
basically-
bond to survive this fall. Don't ask.
No. I actually have a skill that says I can go wherever somebody else goes because, I'm a minion. So
Wow, that's awesome.
I took the skill that says that even though it's physically impossible, I can follow you.
I just never don't get Keladri of Mendelin vibes off of the Squire playbook from the Protector of the Small. Like every single thing about that playbook is Keladri of Mendelin. Anyway,
So we need to stop him from what he's doing and question him about what he's doing.
yep.
So,
Now you know what you want to do. How are you going to do it?
all right. So, if I make a big showy entrance down there and keep him busy,
Yeah.
do you think this walkway goes all the way down there?
I mean,
We'll be
certainly
able to like pincer him.
the walkways. Okay, so we're going to simplify this somewhat. It's really more egg-shaped than this somewhat, but, in the sense that it's not just a straight shaft. But let's just imagine a shaft for the sake of argument. What you have are catwalks at multiple levels. They may be connected in some cases by, like, ladders. But they're generally level, and they go kind of all the way around. What you have in the walls is a descending spiral that whenever it would intersect with a walkway, there's like an archway out onto the catwalk. So the least visible and easily traversable without major interference kind of way down is the spiraling walkway, because you can just go down far enough. It's not the fastest by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the least likely to get you spotted on the way down, because you spiral down until you get to right about the same level, and then you just step out onto the walkway at the right spot. Does that make sense? So the descent part is built into the wall in the passageway that you're already kind of in, and then you got the walkways. There's also ways down on the walkways, but it's more like ladders and like you look for a place where there's like an opening in the catwalk, and there's usually a ladder there, and you can clamber down to the next level. Chance of you being you're potentially faster, chance of you being spotted higher, things like that. Or jump down because you're crazy, which definitely faster. Chances of being spotted much higher.
I mean, like I said, showy entrance.
Yeah, showy entrance for sure. And if Viren's and Anne hustle, like pell-mell down through the corridors and stuff like that, they're not going to be much behind you. Probably. Especially if
and if I choose, I can go along with him.
yeah, absolutely. Especially, I mean, especially if you're like, okay, you guys down there as fast as you can. I'm going to give you a count to 100, and then I'm going to distract him. Odds are pretty good you're not going to have to wait too long before they get down there. Because you'll have given them a bit of a head start to get down through the passageways and so forth. So,
Does this sound like a plan?
I mean, it sounds like a plan.
Um,
I don't know. I don't know if it
I'm
sounds
asking
like
the relevant folks.
I'm not sure if it sounds like an A plan or a B plan or a J plan, but it definitely sounds like a plan. Behrens.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well then, I'll give you guys a count to 100, and then I'm gonna go say hi to Eki.
The question really for you, Anne, is are you going to stick with Behrens or stick with Rowan? Because you can do, obviously, the move lets you do either. Are you
Well, I mean, since he's not doing it, I mean, since it's a plan, as opposed to if he just like jumped off, I would have followed him.
yeah.
But since there's actually a plan to it, I'll go along with the plan.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Because I mean, to be honest, Ian doesn't want to be like in front of Eki when he's startled. Who knows what he's going to throw around?
In the middle of the heat of the moment, you might do something far more reckless. It's like, oh, you're going to go down through the middle? Yeah, no, I'll go with Behrens, thank you very much, where there's a floor, or whatever. Okay. So first of all, Rowan, what's your arrival look like as you arrive flashily on the scene and keep Eki busy?
So I one of my pieces of gear are some magical trinkets that are useful. So
Okay.
I figure we'll have one of those be something like like a in D&D it'd be like a feather fall
A
token
feather
or
fall
something.
kind of thing? Sure. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Um,
Useful is just like you just basically check it off and it does the thing that you need it to do. Is that?
it's a. Let's see.
I mean, I'm fine with that. That tracks for me, certainly.
Yeah, it's something like that. I
And
don't
since
remember off the top of my head.
it's kind of but it's like it gets used for now. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, it's a
It's a charged trinket for all intents and purposes.
we're out of those.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Okay. So you're kind of like. Is this a drop precipitously and then activated, or you're just floating down the whole way?
I imagine for the showy part, it would probably be like jump off, like leap over and then just let it go. Don't know how many people would actually get the reference, but the thing I have in mind for this is there was these games called Deus Ex Human Revolution. They came out a while ago, and one of the things was basically something that kept you from falling. It looked something like that.
I will look at the thing because I have no idea. I have no.
You'll see it within like the first 6 seconds.
Okay, I'm gonna go look. Oop. Oh God, no! I don't want to try Amazon Fire TV.
But it's very useful.
So Adam Jensen Cyberdynamics came with built-in ads. That's why you're seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm joking.
I mean, it's a cyberpunk dystopia.
Yeah, I like that.
It probably did come with ads.
I like it. No, it's great.
So yeah.
Okay. So you're coming down, and you're probably about really when you activate the falling part. Apparently, you managed to do really quite. I mean, you don't really draw his attention initially. It's when you activate the little trinket that he definitely is aware that something is up. Um, so I'm gonna. I think it's funny. Now, just to review real quickly, so that you guys have this available, Eki's stats as such are that he's arrogant. I think it's hilarious because it's a great way to keep. It's easy to keep him busy. You basically can automatically keep him busy by simply singing his praises, which I think is fantastic.
Which we've already exploited at one point.
Which you've already explained it at one point. I think it's hilarious because you're going. I mean, and I don't want to speak for Rowan, but my impression is that Rowan is going down to keep him busy, but at the same time is the last person in the world who would keep him busy using his easy to keep him busy trait. Like, no, I have to roll for it because I'm not saying anything nice to this guy. I don't know if that's actually true.
Yeah, no, we're not.
I mean, the move's right there, but it's like, yeah, I know that it's available, but I'm not doing it. Counterspell. He cannot be kept busy or damaged by magic or ranged weapons. And you need to pay a price to engage him in melee. So he's quite good in hand to hand. It's costly to engage him in hand to hand, and unless you have an advantage, you really can't do a lot to him with magic or ranged weapons either because he's just quite good. He's quite good. You can keep him busy in other ways, like by virtue of being just
You can say it. I'm being an asshole to him.
a troublemaker. A troublemaker. Let's say a troublemaker. Anyway, so yeah, he turns when it activates very quickly. Swords up. Certainly his swords up. His wards are up. A flash of annoyance across his face as you're coming down and onto the catwalk. Same level as him. One up from there. Where do you want to be relative to this guy?
Oh no, we'll be right in his face there.
Okay. Very close, or you know, uh,
Close-ish.
close-ish.
Like,
Close.
Close-ish.
like probably like
Not within sword's reach.
5 or 6 paces of him.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
If he wants to lunge at me, okay, but
Yeah. Yeah, he's not necessarily jumping in there straight away. Okay. Excellent. I think. Well, first of all, like you're coming down, you're landing, very flashy. What do you say and or do here that's really going to kind of? I mean, you definitely have his attention, but can you keep his attention is really what it boils down to. So what do you do? What do you say?
yeah, I think it's just something like glib, like, Aki, I understood you're causing problems.
And you can see now that you're down here that he is very methodically and in somewhat of a geometric pattern, snuffing crystals all around the cat. At his current rate, he'd probably need to keep at this for several days, probably to complete whatever pattern it is that he's up to. But which isn't to say he hasn't done much. Just the cavern is big. I'm going to ask you then to do a keep them busy, which is as a distraction or to buy some time. Tell us how and roll courage.
I am perfectly fine with that.
All right.
I was about to say, does my flashy interest give me hope?
Um,
Yeah, you really hope that it goes well.
I think it gives Ann despair, but that's just me.
I mean, that
No,
can also.
despair would have been if he'd done anything but land gracefully.
I think I could probably make the argument that, like, you're somewhat working in concert with your fellowship people, in that you actually paused when she said so and came up with what amounts to a plan. That's so maybe is
7/8 of a plan.
I'm not sure if that I'm not sure if that's enough, but I am will if everybody else feels like that's enough to have hope in this,
I
knowing.
think he'll get hope when we show up in the door.
Okay, so I think for this initially keeping him busy thing, maybe then you don't have hope, but you're getting there.
Okay.
Maybe. I think it's that first time that they show up to back you up. Really show up. Hope is coming. It's still
Yeah.
a 9. Okay, so. Keep them busy. On a 7 plus, you buy some time. Their attention is all on you. On a 9 minus, they will retaliate against you when the time is up. Okay. He sort of sniffs disdainfully. Oh, I mean, damage. No, making a few adjustments, a few modifications at the, uh, under after much research and careful application of skill and talent, a few modifications to the functioning of this of the city, so to speak. A few things, honestly, a little more than house cleaning, really.
Uh-huh. And why are you doing those things?
At the direction of my mistress, of course.
You are the dumbest smart person I have known.
Couldn't have any independent thought there, could he?
Now that's hardly called for, really. I mean, when you listen to the most powerful, knowledgeable person in the room, I can hardly think that that's uh, reason to be mocked.
No, that's exactly the reason to be mocked.
That is very in keeping with your nature, Rowan, to just simply reject a person because they are clearly superior to you and they have some inkling as to a plan, uh, motivation, something other than simply rebelling against whoever seems to be the best person to listen to simply because they're the best person to listen to, or the best in some people's cases. And he sort of, you know, humbly, does kind of a little humble brag, kind of bow. Um, you know, you just generally reject anyone that you think might be able to show you up eventually, whether that's someone like my mistress or myself. That's really, I imagine, why we didn't get along. Jealousy? Is it petty to call it jealousy, or simply accurate? I think probably. Well, why not both? Um, the so he's been I think, how have we described this thing? We've got these crystals all the way around the walls, the catwalks that we're on, and sort of in the central area, kind of sustained in the center of the space, like it's magnetic repulsion is kind of holding it in the center of this thing. The big crystal, the big one. And you're probably where you guys are right now, about at the midpoint of this, larger crystal. Honestly, yeah. So the catwalk that you're on, where you're facing Eki, is kind of like his back is sort of to the crystal, the larger one, and your back is kind of to the wall. And you're at one of the catwalks that go from that are kind of like bridging the space between like the outer catwalk and probably some little inner one that has been constructed in kind of a ring around that center crystal for whatever reason, polishing the thing for all I know, something like that. Virens and Anne, your archway where you I'm gonna have to kind of draw this, I feel like. Oh god. Art. No, not art. The very opposite definition of art. Badness. Let's move you over here for a second. All right. This is a top-down view of the crystal. Yeah? And let's get whatever, somewhat bronzeness. So we've got our little walkway around the outside and thing. This one's broken. That one. This one's also broken. Something like that. Then we've got our catwalk around the outside like that. And then let's put some more crystals out here. Jaggy crystals, yeah. All the way around the outside lining wall thing. And we can put, I'm not even going to look and see whatever. We'll put Eki kind of right here. Look at Eki. And we've got Rowan. Rowan should also be green, but I ran out of good greens. And probably like the arch, well, let's get a black here. So our little archway in, there we go. Let's cover that in here. Kind of on this like walkway path, kind of coming at an angle, sort of thing. Cool. We good there?
Cool.
That kind of track. Okay. Really, I missed my calling as a graphic design specialist. I mean, I think that's clear. Anyway, so yeah, Eki had been alternating between like walking around the walkway here or the outer edges and just kind of randomly blacking out, crystals as he goes. You guys have come, Anna and Virens, kind of out along this. From where you're at, you can kind of see that that Rowan's over there. You maybe can sort of spot Eki, although you may not have a clear line on him, but you can certainly tell where he's at. So you certainly know what's what and where they generally are. Okay. But honestly, Rowan, if you have some problem with my mistress, you should really take it up with her. And he takes a step back and kind of to the side, and you can see who he's been talking to, sort of. Well, you can certainly see who he's been talking to. In that, Let me go a different color here. In the crystal here, in the face of the thing, stands a reflection? No. You would know much more about this as, sort of there's a semblance of Ursula Tenebros basically standing there. Wherever she probably is, she's like elsewhere, but certainly seems to be able to see through the crystal to this space, and definitely can see you. She's certainly able to make eye contact for all intents and purposes. Just in terms of, it's not like some illusion of something that isn't quite tracking or anything like that. It's like through a speaking glass or something like that. I don't know what technology what magical gewgaws the harbingers might have for that sort of distance, face-to-face distance communication type of thing, or rumors that they might have, but it's something along that lines where she's like apparently using part of the bloody crystal to do it, which is crazy. Rowan, hello. I've heard so much about you. None of it good, but well, that's Eki. And I will first ask, as you guys are emerging over here, what are you two doing? Because this part, I don't think you're catching the third voice necessarily. So what are you guys doing while Eki is kind of dropped out of immediately visual? It's okay to make bad art. Very nice.
I mean, if you're talking to Virens and Anne, I don't see why
Yeah.
there's any reason why we would stop approaching wherever we think people are.
Well, that's what
So,
I didn't know. And I absolutely agree with that. What I'm asking more is like, are you? Gonna go back to drawing here. Are you more likely like coming around this way so he can clearly see that Rowan's got backup, or are you actually trying to like,
No, I think I would.
sneak up on him, or come from both directions, or?
Well, I'm guessing at the very least we're staying out of line of sight of the crystal. But I'm going to follow. I'm going to follow the orc because he knows this.
Yeah, wherever
About,
Virens go. I didn't know if you guys were
Wherever
like,
Viren's going, I'm going. How's that?
So is it a circle to surprise kind of thing, or a circle to let them clearly see there are reinforcements kind of thing for Virens? I figured you were getting closer. I just didn't know how.
I think being there to support Rowan in case anything jumps him is probably more important. So
Okay.
we'll be doing that.
So more directly, just kind of direct line along the path kind of a thing. Okay. I have no skin in this. I just want to make sure I didn't figure you were lingering over by the archway. I just didn't know what you were necessarily doing. Rowan, Eki, physically there, also there in spirit. Tenebros. And I will say, for all that this is like potentially super bad, there's a certain stab of like, I was right, kind of like. There's still a little spear of validation. Seeing her there, like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And everybody believed me who listened to me, and lots of people didn't, but I was right. Crap, I was right. And your image notwithstanding, with I got nothing, what do you do? Or say? Or cry?
No, what's that?
I said, what do you do or say or cry?
Um,
I know I can choose scenery if I so choose, but at this point, she's giving you an opening.
hmm Well, on one hand, yes, Rowan goes through that quick. I was right. Why did I have to choose to be right about this one? All right. Now, now we're in the midst of this. Time not to give up, or time not to give up now. So I think Rowan's just going to go on blast here, where he's just going to be like, you've corrupted everything that the magisters of the tower believe in. You're leading them into a dangerous situation, and if I'm right, you're going to ruin the whole damn world.
Oh, ruin. I I understand why you would think that. Ruin. I suppose from your perspective, it's the best word you have. I think change. Change is necessary in all life. It is all I have ever really pursued with any of this. And I'd be happy to explain everything that means. Here in this place with this ancient, well, ancient uh Ophir, let's be accurate, construction, and what must be done here to effect the change that is necessary. And if it causes some harm to some annoying insects who really deserve it, happy coincidence. But the change, far more than ruin. I suppose if you think small, if you think about only this island, then it's a fine ruin. But change. Does that seem so awful? You are from you spend so much time in the wild. Does that not change? Does not a tree fall to give space for growth? Does not
A city isn't a tree.
does not a mother sometimes sacrifice herself a doe for the survival of her fawns, or a wolf for her cubs? Is that sacrifice not noble and good and change?
Oh, so you're going to sacrifice yourself? That's really nice.
Sometimes these things are necessary.
I think you have an issue of scale here.
I do not think small. It is true.
And yes, I totally agree with Varian at this point.
I missed something. I gotta go look at. Did I say Ophir again? I'm sorry. Enough talk. Ugh!
Well,
He's not going to actually do that, but that's what he's thinking.
right.
I was about to say that's what Rowan's thinking right now. Is like, well, you can't affect change if I punch if I punch Eki in the face right now.
Also probably true. Now Eki has certainly noticed that there's other people around. He's not, he's not unaware of the fact that he's the actual only physical target that's immediately presenting itself. So that's worth noting.
I mean, if Rowan wants to give ground, I have something I could say here, but I'm mostly deferring to him and Anne on this one.
Nope, go for it.
So if Viren gestures to Anne to like stay here, I'm gonna push myself into danger, but you don't have to. He will get. Yeah. He will hand up and say it. So at this point, what they have said is we're okay squashing a few people for our grand glorious design. And what Varens will ask is, Who is it that entrusted their lives to you?
The expression is on her face. First of all, a bit of surprise that someone other than Rowan is speaking. Not as surprised in the correct word. A raised eyebrow, like, oh, it's arranged like that, is it? Kind of a thing. Um, the yeah, I can. I'll just go with this one. Um, there's at least about a three beat here, like three beats, where she just honestly doesn't understand the question. Like she's puzzling through it. This who asked you to do this thing. Um, oh, oh no, that's not how this works. You can't possibly understand what needs to happen here. Any of you. I mean, even, well, I've explained it to Eki as best I can, but you can't possibly understand this. No one's going to ask me to do it any more than someone can make a request of the sun. There are necessities here that must be taken care of. I will admit, in the past, I have been thwarted at these necessities, but that is why one comes back with those who can help realize your greater goal. I have learned from past frustrations and moved on, but I don't. When something needs to be done, one simply does it. When one sees the right of a thing, one steps in. I mean, your people, for all that they have, risen from mud and muck and base servitude, have determined that there is a right and a wrong thing based on your limited perception, but nonetheless, and you have acted on it, and you continue to act on it, and hence empire. I like that. Explained the best I could.
Then, for the sake of our own lives, when we kill you in self-defense, you'll understand why.
If you should that come to pass, I would be most impressed. Everyone must pay prices for what they deem to be the good. Your people patrol and watch your tribal lands and lay down laws and spread the righteousness of your culture. And if in the march of this, your people are, you lose, what did they call themselves? You lose spears, crushed beneath the weight of those far greater than you, far more powerful, or beyond, or by forces you could not possibly understand, is a noble sacrifice by your point of view. If they are supported by those that are later wiped out, they're well, all of you who were once raised as chattel and farm hands and that sort of thing, and have now found a new noble role in life, all of that sort of thing, that is, again, you've made that a noble thing. It is justifiable. Your sacrifice of if an entire contingent is wiped out, but they were wiped out for doing what your leaders have determined to be the right thing, then that is noble. And I suppose would that to happen here, and she finds the very idea just obviously kind of amusing. Then that's certainly thing. The way in which she is speaking of casually of the life sacrifices of your um the spears and that sort of thing, obviously whether she's intentionally doing it or not or knowingly doing it or not is obviously immediately calls to mind your friends who and companions of that company that was wiped out by the island that she brought crashing down. And it, again, makes really in a way that you're really not expecting, because you've put this away, you put it behind you. It's this thing, and it's a you respect their spirits and what they did.
I might be able to save you a little bit of time.
Yeah.
The Overlord could not use the moves Twist the Knife, Fear Me, or an offer you can't refuse on you.
Really? That's awesome. I did not know that, but she's certainly trying. What is the name of that move? Because I want to know how it is that you are putting that aside.
That is Daughters of Chaos. That is one of the 4 orc origins.
So she is clearly going for this, bringing up the sacrifice of others so that you refill that pain, like you relive that pain, and that she can go for that and show us that running off you, if you would.
Explaining the right thing to do doesn't take this many words. When those people sacrificed themselves, it was always clear. It was always obvious what needed to be done. You talk a lot. You sound vain and self-serving. You've said it's not possible for us to understand this motive, but have you tried? Have you really tried?
Oh my goodness. That is, I'm processing because that's a lot. My Lord. Okay. That's gorgeous, first of all. Man, did I pick the wrong person to twist the knife against too? Holy cats.
Yep.
He's just used to the knife. It's just.
Oh, that is beautiful.
It's just a part of him. So you're not twisting anything he hasn't twisted himself.
That is, and that incidentally is a very interesting take on both Virans and Orcish culture from Anne. Just FYI.
Yeah, don't talk sacrifice to a soldier. That's what we do.
Not also okay. I want that to be a move against her in some way, shape, or form. So I'm kind of parsing all of this because honestly, I was not expecting to suddenly have this open up.
Do you want a possible recommendation?
I'm looking at lots of stuff, so by all means, because there's stuff here you can do with like burning a bond to get her to reveal something telling.
He can also so because of how the Overlord works,
yes,
he could attempt to finish them with his words, which really only just damages one of the Overlord's stats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even at the worst.
Okay. So, Virens, how does that sound to you?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay. So, the simple fact that she completely like is expecting to be able to have this effect and did not get that at all, I feel like that gives you, well, and you've got people here to help anyway, but I feel like that gives you the opening to be able to do the thing. Um, okay. So I'm going to look at the finish them stat. Sorry, because I was looking at one of her other things also here. The attempt to defeat an enemy, hold advantage over it. Tell us what you want to do. And this would be showing them the error of their ways. I'm looking at
Okay.
I'm looking at the ways it lines up. It could be forcing them to retreat also because courage, and just the fact that she would back off like a bit in shock.
Outsmarting or terrifying or
I
overwhelming,
could see
possibly too.
I could see the eh, yeah, if you squint, showing them the error of their ways, certainly. Like, because he's literally saying, "Have you tried this thing that you haven't done?" Um, like, have you really tried? Um, so maybe that.
Okay. Am I rolling with hope here?
Yeah, I think so. You've got people with you and that kind of thing. I can see this going a couple different ways. And the cool thing is you forge a bond with them. But
Well, here comes a hope wisdom roll.
hope wisdom. Let's do it.
I'll take it.
Okay, so that's now there is okay. So let's. Oh God, I gotta parse all this stuff. So when someone who is not a threat to the world takes directed action against you, they must pay a price to do so. So that's thing one. There's kind of there's a threat to the world kind of
When you must pay a
requirement.
price, and you always choose to break your weapon. So by demonstration, Variance will get his handmade, crafted spear out and casually break it over his knee in demonstration. It's
Because
like, yeah,
I love that symbolism
when
because he
weapon,
was. Go ahead. Go with what you're saying.
like these are the lives of the orcs, but we do not spend them, for your pleasure. We spend them for protection.
Very nice. Very nice. Because she had been dismissive about the thing and meant it to be like a blow against you, and the fact that you're bringing the thing out, I was like, oh, you're going to make fun of the spears? I'll just break this thing over my knee, and this is how much this means. Okay, so there's the payment done. Okay. So much to parse here. Sorry. When you roll on a 10 plus, you forge a bond with them. They cannot. So you okay? On a 7 to
That
9,
did not happen.
yeah, right.
Skip that.
On a 7 to 9, you deal damage to them and lose your advantage over them. If an ally was keeping them busy, they aren't anymore. That's fine. You don't lose advantage. You must face retaliation. Okay. So there's two ways this can go down, and I'm actually, from a narrative point of view, I kind of want the input of the group. doing this as a collaborative kind of thing. As it stands, he does damage. We damage one of her stats. One of her stats would be either crap, where are they? Mythical. Nobody really believes in her.
Is there a conceit strat?
No, she doesn't have it. That's I mean it is true, but that's just a quality that all overlords have to have. Like they're dismissive of actual threat. So we can damage mythical, skin changer, and her third stat is hidden base. And there's lots of different. I mean, we'll figure out how any of that would necessarily work necessarily. So his words can damage her. Done. Or, and this, I kind of want to do this because of just what we have here. So the other thing we can do here is she has a stat or a move called Heart of Iron. When someone makes a move against you, you may erase a bond with them and to have them automatically fail their roll. You steal the spotlight from them and twist the knife against them, whatever. That can't work on Virens. Fine. Your attention is entirely on them while you use this move, and the rest of the fellowship can act without drawing your attention, without drawing the overlord's attention. A player may, in fact, force you to do this before making their roll, so you can sort of ask for that. And that's why I'm kind of throwing it out there. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because her bond with you is the whole I killed one of your friends. I killed someone important to Virens. Clearly, that bond that she's looking to exploit with this whole twist the knife thing doesn't have the power that she needed. So the fact, that we lose that, we kind of cast that aside. It becomes a non-thing. But her sort of rage and attention and frustration and stuff is focused on Virens giving you other two a move here. Or we damage one of her stats. I'm fine either way.
I can tell you how I would damage one of her stats as an option.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a thing. Sorry, go
ahead. No, I had an idea on that as well. Please go ahead.
Well, you first then. I want to hear this.
Oh. So I was thinking with the mythological stat, and given what he just said to her being so stung by those words that she actually manifests herself to each person in the city saying, "Do you trust me to make the right decision for you?"
Or something like, yeah.
Or something like that. Thereby, at least within the city, blowing her cover as a mythological creature.
Or simply switching it from I'm working in secretive mode to I'm back, and it's basically switching it. But she wouldn't be mythical anymore.
Right.
Okay, so I like that, and that's related to kind of, but it would end up at the same place. So I think the three options, and the group can add more to this, but I think the three options in increasing order of how much it changes the conflict against her are: we lose the bond that she has with Virens, which is a nice, safe option. Maybe it has some maybe it has some outcome in the future. Nobody knows.
I will note parenthetically that what you also do is buy sort of Rowan and Anne both sort of a free move here while she's not paying attention to them.
I would be very okay with that.
So I'm just putting that in there as that's another thing you get. Carry on.
Yeah. The second option is Dave's option, which is that she manifests to the people of the city. At this point, our big problem of how do we de-ensorcel these people may have just solved itself. Hooray. I'm also down with that. The third, probably most dramatic option is we damage Mythical by the animal spirit guardian that was with Virens as part of his spear now returns to Tosk with the scent of the corruptor in tow.
Ooh, that's fun too.
And now they know.
I like that. To be fair, Mythical's not gone, it's damaged. So I wouldn't. It's definitely going to. I like the idea of whatever the.
It
It's a
doesn't out her to the
localized
world,
thing.
but
It's a
it
localized
doesn't out her to the
effect.
world, but it means that there is some group somewhere who is not aware of this.
So and
So, and we're just I think we're answering is the question of, do we want to go to more effort to fix this area here? Do we want to make it immediate? Like, how immediate do we want the repercussions of this to be? I guess is another way to put it. Is that fair?
And I'll say also, I was thinking that the Toscan Empire would be kind of where things would go after the city anyway. So the fact that and now we have a good motivation on her part because again, as we've established, she's petty and likes revenge. So all of that sort of thing happening gives her another reason to kind of head that direction. As that we're going to reprioritize targets here. I want to go to the Tosk. Any reason? Doesn't really matter. Just do it. So there's that. That's a nice tie-in, but whatever. Yeah, I'm good with either. I'm good with any of the. I'm good with literally any of these things, and I like them a lot.
And I am as well. I mean, I had a suggestion, but I like the other two things that were proposed as well. So.
Yeah. And I think the two people in the room should speak up because it's like, man, I really have a thing to do if she's not going to be looking at me right now. Y'all should say something because that would be good.
No, I was going to say, I don't have anything because I feel like it would take the blow away from what Varens did, which was big. So
Yeah,
I feel like that was the payoff, not a setup.
I like that. I think that's an excellent. Anne, would you agree with that?
Anne is briefly AFK.
Okay. So in a fit of pique, she's exposing herself to the city. I want to deprecate the strength of that a little bit because much of this city is sort of under her sway. One of the things, you can save the populace of the city from her. With that said, she's also, one of her recent level ups was the Scourge? No, something like that.
Yeah, no, that was
the corruption is spread. So she's got thralls, like many little minor gook minions or mook minions. Sorry, messed that up. And also came up with a very distressing word in the process, so I apologize for that. But a lot of mooks, grunts, whatever, minions, and many of these happen to be in the city outside and beyond the population. So the reveal doesn't have necessarily as much power as it might in the Tuscan Empire. Certainly, it's a dangerous organ. Don't want to rouse the sleeping giant, so to speak. But the payoff in the city is much more immediate. So I'm going to turn it right back to you guys. And really, Varens, like, which would you prefer here? If you're going to damage mythical, like, where do you?
I'm okay with her manifesting in the city. I'm okay if manifesting in the city doesn't mean that everybody's out of her thrall.
Right.
If, for example, once we crack that nut, then they remember her. Yeah. I think that would be probably the best compromise.
Yeah, and the city does have a history, as we've established, of rebelling against her once before, which is, and also that's the plan of hers that was the furthest along. So damaging mythical.
I'll ask one more question. How does the god that's living here feel about her?
That's interesting. Ooh, I got to think about that, and I'm probably going to think about that.
Okay, let's resolve this for now and push forward on that when you have an idea.
Okay, we're damaging mythical. I still have that bond there, and I think. Okay.
Margie is back, by the way.
Okay, so
No, she's not. Her
okay,
headphones not working.
so essentially, I'm not going to do this bit right now, but her eyes blaze with some real like, oh, I'm going to show you anger, and she turns away from whatever it is that she's looking at there. However she was looking through the crystal, and storms away. I don't know how to explain it. The effect on your end of things is that she basically walks back into the crystal inside that that's holding the whole island up, which is, I don't care who you are, vaguely disconcerting. We're at 10:30. I got to run to everybody once because I'm terrible. So we're going to go around again real quick. Win. Birds on the eaves, temple. Go in, set it on fire, call in an airstrike.
Um,
Exit left, pursued by bear.
no,
Look for
Or birds.
Pursued by birds.
I go into it.
So this Sifley is there. In the center of this, what would be like, Dave, I need temple parts. Where all the pews would be.
The sanctuary.
The sanctuary, in the main sanctuary. Obviously, there's no pews, there's rubble and whatnot. In the center of that area, the space, like kind of where the center aisle would be, laid out are what you can only assume are the pieces of the statue that were once that were once like sort of the central piece of the fountain. It's definitely not an O'Here style of statuary. It came later. It's been all broken up, but someone has meticulously reacquired all the pieces and kind of laid it out. So this female statue has been laid out so that all the you can clearly see, although it's all cracked apart. It's laid out so you can clearly see what the statue would have once looked like, and beatific person, one arm raised, one arm kind of around at the waist. You imagine a bird alighting on one of the fingers, the upraised index figure kind of a thing. Very pretty, quite comely. And Sifley kind of there, like carefully sort of positioning all, I shouldn't say not positioning, but like kind of pacing around it, regarding it. Very attractive. Not a very good likeness. She doesn't look like that now. I don't know that I've ever seen her look like that, and she certainly didn't look like that the last time that she rose up. But still, obviously, meant to be her at some point in time. They built statues to her here once, and then they broke them apart. Unreliable, this city is. Very unreliable. Unpredictable. Still, I'm not sure that they necessarily warrant retribution, but that is what she is. And, she does great. She follows a great need, and occasionally horrible things must happen. And she's standing sort of at the head of the statue. And the feet are towards the entrance of the temple. So you're facing one another from, say, 20 yards. with this fairly good size, like call it 12, 13, 14 foot statue laying on the ground between you, plus some extra space, facing yourself across. So these two remnants of the O'Hare Empire facing each other across, like sort of the shattered remains of a representation of the Overlord from ages ago, from once upon a time. And Carabas, the guards gathered up, and the sergeant's there. The sergeant bows very deferentially to that hooded figure, who falls in. So it's two columns of like 4 guards each. Alongside them, the sergeant and the dude, and trailing just behind the sergeant, that this hooded figure, and they're coming. They're coming your way, across the park, away from the manor, and headed back, really straight to. It doesn't really matter where they're headed. They're coming straight towards you at this point. So, Overlord just walked back into the crystal. You 3 are right there. She's obviously about to do something. The remnants are facing each other. Hooded guy coming towards Carabas. And that's where we will leave it. I feel very strongly that whatever's going to happen with Chains Crossing will happen next session. For good or ill, all will be resolved with regards to this location. Probably.
So speaking,
I probably
so
just
speaking
changed
of
it.
next session,
Yes.
when shall we meet again?
That